Um, this video is about working with the dead. We're approaching to the dark half of the year. The veil is thinning, and as some of y'all know, I don't know if y'all all know or not, but I'm not only just an oracle to Hecate, but I also am a medium for the dead, okay? And specifically, mostly for like witch, spiritual, shamanistic ancestors, okay? Only because when it comes to being a medium or whatever, I am not a natural born medium. I'm a natural born oracle and psychic, but as far as being a medium and communicating with the dead, that power was given to me by Hecate, okay? And so I don't just speak with any dead, okay? I only speak with the dead that are spiritual, that were connected with Hecate in their lifetime, and now as they're in the other realm, okay? So in this video, I wanted to break down a little bit about working with the dead, about working with ancestors, and the sacred dead, which is what I was talking about. The sacred or the holy dead are the spirits that were spiritual. They were witches, shamans, practitioners of magic, okay? Those are the type of dead spirits that I'm talking about when I say the sacred dead. And so that's what this video is about. It's about working with those spirits. It's about working with ancestors kind of in general as well, personal ancestors and stuff like that, which once again, I do not communicate with just any of the dead, okay? So I can't just communicate with any ancestors of people, but just the spiritual ones, all right? But I can teach you how to communicate with your own ancestors and spirits and stuff like that, and that's what this video is about, okay? So, let me look at my notes. So I say this in order. Okay, y'all. Working with the dead. A large part of working with the dead, working with ancestors, is spirit communication, okay? That's a major vital part of this. Spirit communication is a major necessity as far as kind of, it's like a two-sided coin, okay? There's two different types of category, or how do I want to say it? I don't really want to call it categories, but there's two sides to the coin of working with the dead, okay? And one side is as far as physical, outer, magical things that they do for us. And the other side is communication, where they're giving you knowledge, guidance, and insight and stuff like that, okay? So when it comes to working with the ancestors and the dead, necromancy, the word necromancy means divination by the dead, okay? So that's spirit communication, okay? Now, so this lesson is mostly going to be about specifically spirit communication, okay? It's about that part of working with the dead. I can do another separate video where I talk about working with the dead as far as the magical aspect of it all. But to me, the communication part should be the foundation going forward with this ancestor work, okay? Because if you do not have a strong established communication with the ancestors, it's kind of like I think, rude to do ancestor work as far as the magical aspects of it, okay? Because there's not clear communication there, and it's not really I just think it's rude and kind of like dabbling if you do it without communicating, okay? So the foundation is clear and good open lines of communication with those spirits, okay? Now, there's a reason for that, okay? And we'll get into this. But first, let me just break down spirit communication in and of itself has two major classes, okay? And I call these outside influence and psychic influence, okay? Outside influence is a type of communication where you get synchronicities. It could be numbers, omens, signs and symbols, just outer events that happen, like tapping and knocking on the walls, etc. Things like that, objects being moved, stuff like that. All of that falls under the category of outside influence when it comes to communicating with spirits. Psychic influence it's all mental, okay? It's about internal influences like intuition, feelings, thoughts that will come into your mind, visions when you're awake, dreams when you're asleep, and the most powerful form, of course, is telepathic communication directly, where it's just known and understood and conscious, okay? So those are the two main classes of spirit communication, all right? So let me give you examples of how these communications take place on our end, okay? When we communicate with spirits from our end, we do rituals, we do offerings, spell work, different things like that, okay? That is us communicating with the spirits through outside influence, okay? Now, when we do things like prayer, petitioning, creative visualization in our minds, and stuff like that, that's working, or that's communicating with the spirit through psychic influence, okay? So once again, I'm just saying that that's from our end. When we're communicating to them, we use outside influence and psychic influence as well, okay? So what I wanted to teach you guys was that this communication that takes place is a two-way relationship, okay? A lot of people don't teach this, or they just don't realize it or understand it well enough, but it's a two-way relationship, okay? Just like with people, just like whenever you have other people who are your friends or your family that are living, communication is not all one-sided, okay? You don't just talk to them and tell them things and then that's it and expect them to just be like subservient to you or whatever. They will also communicate back to you, and they'll tell you what they want, okay? Sometimes they have needs that they'll communicate to you and stuff like that. So that was my whole point with wanting to do this video, because another friend of mine who's a witch that I know here in person was getting dreams from her grandmother's spirit, and she was asking me to interpret it or whatever, and this other witch, she did not understand that her grandmother's spirit wanted things back from her in return, okay? So she was just always giving offerings and asking and petitioning for things for herself, and kind of just using her ancestors as like subservient, mindless slaves, pretty much, okay? And that's not cool, okay? That is not That is not how you're supposed to work with your ancestors, okay? They are living spirits, okay? They might not be physically alive anymore, but they are still living spirits in the other realms, and they have needs, they have feelings, they have thoughts, they have suggestions for you, they have advice that they'll give you, or that they want you to hear and know. And you have to acknowledge that part of it, okay? So, let's see. So the spirits of our ancestors, spirits of the dead, they do what we want and they help us because we communicate clearly to them and we give them offerings. Once again, we use outside influence and psychic influence to communicate with them. So because of that, because we do it clearly, they do what we want, okay? But yeah, the spirits are not mindless slaves, okay? They're not to be used, okay? This girl that I'm talking about, who's a witch friend of mine, we kind of fell off for a while, but we recently reestablished contact with each other. And she was talking to me about using her ancestors. And I was like, girl, no, don't say that you're using them, okay? That is very rude, very rude. You have to respect the spirits, okay? You wouldn't say that you're using your friend, okay? You wouldn't say that you're using your living family member to accomplish something or whatever. Come on now. They want us to respect their guidance and suggestions as well, okay? When you receive random signs and synchronicities, and when I say random, okay, random signs, synchronicities, psychic insights, visions, dreams, those are communications to you from the spirits, okay? Now, this goes beyond just your ancestor spirits as well, just so you know that. This can be applied to all spirit communication whatsoever, okay? So just be mindful of that in this lesson. But those are communications coming through to you from the spirits, okay? So when you get those communications, if you don't act on them, you are ignoring the spirits, okay? So they're aware of us and our needs, but they're also aware of their own needs, okay? The relationship that we have with the spirits must be reciprocated with respect and consideration, okay? So be aware of that. You can't just, well, I mean, you certainly can, but I would not suggest that you only give offerings to your ancestors when you want something, okay? That's extremely rude. Imagine if you have a living friend or a family member and you only went around that person and talk with them when you want something, okay? How is that person going to feel? They're going to be like, what the fuck, okay? So when you're approaching the spirits, you need to be mindful that you're building a relationship, okay? And that involves more than just getting favors from each other. All right. So if you get help from the spirits, but whenever they give you communications to guide you or suggestions, or they give you some kind of communication that they want something or need something in return, and if you don't listen to them, or if you don't do what they suggest or what they want, you're disrespecting them, okay? And you're not, you are sabotaging your relationship with them if you do that. So you're basically telling the spirits in that case, if you're ignoring them, you're basically telling the spirits that your will is above theirs, and basically that's just not good, okay? It's rude, and it's going to cause reactions of the spirits. Some of the spirits will just stop helping you altogether, okay? Now, your ancestors are your family. They're going to love you no matter what. But like I said, it's the same as with the living, okay? You might have living family members. If you're rude to them, they're going to like not help you, okay? They're going to want you to come to them and apologize and stuff like that before any progress is made or healed in that relationship. So be aware of that too. That is how it works with the spirits. If they're giving you insight and guidance and stuff like that, and you ignore them, that hurts their feelings, okay? And that's going to make them not want to be as helpful to you and might make them distance themselves. Some of them will get spiteful of you and they'll remove blessings from your life, okay? They have the power to do that. So just be aware of that too. What else was I saying? The more that you reciprocate your willingness to respect and serve the spirits by following their guidance and listening to them when they come through to you, the more closer that they will come to you and the more that they're going to start blessing your life, okay? It's the same as building a relationship with the living, okay? So the better you treat them, the better they will treat you. So as with all relationships, with the living or the dead, the work with spirits is balanced when there is healthy and clear communication, okay? That's really the key. Like I said, it's the foundation to working with them, okay? We must listen as well as we petition and pray, okay? The relationships must be balanced, give and take as well, okay? You have to be willing to also give the spirit what they want when they ask you for offerings, or a lot of times what they want is for you to do the advice or the suggestion that they give you for your own life, okay? So be aware of that too. There has to be equal love and respect on both ends. So telepathic communication and mediumship is the most clear and powerful form of spirit communication, all right? I just wanted to point that out as well. Which I will do a separate lesson on telepathically communicating with spirits. Because that is one of the things that Hecate taught me. Like I said, I was not a natural born medium. I was a natural born oracle to communicate with Hecate. But when she made that aware to me and began teaching me and all of that, she taught me how to become a medium and just communicate with all spirits in the same way that I communicate with her, which is telepathically. So, excuse me, I did have that lesson in my book, and that will be one of the lessons that I share in this group for you guys, so that you can all start telepathically communicating with Hecate and with whatever spirit, okay? But that's going to be a separate lesson. In this, I'm kind of just covering specifically about the relationship with the ancestors and with the dead, okay? So if you guys remember in the Keys of Light lesson, the first key of light is acknowledgement of the source of God, of Hecate, in all things and in all people, okay? This includes the dead, the ancestors. You have to acknowledge God, the source, Hecate, in them as well, okay? And that's so that you will respect it right. Now, it has to also be acknowledged that the dead ancestors are actually more closer to God, source, Hecate, than we are when we're alive, okay? When we're alive, we have a limited perception from the point of view of our body, okay? Now, obviously that's going to be different for people because you can become psychic and raise your consciousness more into oneness with God and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's more limited, okay? The dead are not bound by a physical body and how that limits perception. They can be anywhere. They can perceive all things at once. And just all this stuff that makes them more in tune with God, Source, Hecate, okay? So they need to be respected, kind of like how we respect our elders that are living as being more wise than us, more experienced. The dead are the elders to all the living, okay? Doesn't matter how old you are when you're alive. The ancestors are always going to be the elders, and you need to respect them even more than you would respect a living elder, okay? So understand that too. And then even among the dead, there are some souls that died thousands of years ago, and they have just been spirits ever since then. They've experienced a lot, okay? Not only of the spirit realm, but also watching the physical world, okay? So they're going to be even more wiser than, for instance, someone who died last year, okay? That ancestor spirit who died last year is not going to be as wise and experienced as an ancestor that died thousands of years ago, okay? I just wanted to point that out as well so you can understand that. Even though, for instance, an ancestor that died 1 year ago will still be wiser than you living because they can be more conscious of everything at once, okay? That's kind of what it all comes down to. So I just wanted to point that out in this lesson as well. I did want to also say, hold on, let me make sure I didn't skip anything on there. Okay. So yeah, it's only whenever we are honoring that relationship that the ancestors will stay close to us and willing to aid us, okay? It has to be honored. Okay, yeah, one more thing I pointed out in these notes. You have to also understand that the spirits of the human ancestors, okay, the dead, they have free will, okay? Just like how the living do. So some of the ancestors, some of the spirits are going to get along more with you than others will, okay? That's just the way it works. Just like how whenever you meet living people, some of y'all click and some of y'all don't, okay? It's just how it is. It's how the way personalities are. And the spirits of the dead still retain human personalities. So some of them they were grumpy in life and they're going to be grumpy in death. Some of them had a really gentle and calm and loving disposition when they were alive, and they still retain that in death as well. So just be aware of that too, that there's different levels of interaction, and some spirits that, for instance, some of your personal ancestors may get along with you and not other of your family members, okay, and stuff like that, and vice versa. So be aware of that too. So you need to be aware of what spirits of your ancestors you're communicating with. You can't just try to communicate with all of them, because that's going to be like a chaotic variety of different personalities that some might not be good for you, okay? So be aware of that too. And when you call forth of your ancestors and stuff like that, you might want to say certain things like, only the ancestors which are willing to help me, and stuff like that, that you call forth and give offerings to, okay? And you might also too want to be like, I give offerings to the ancestors who don't like me to appease you, to just like let me be or whatever and stuff like that. It's just something to consider, okay? Like I said, I'll get into more detail on another video where I talk about ancestor work as far as the magical practice of it. But I wanted to establish the importance of communicating with them, okay? Now, one more thing that I didn't put in the notes, but that I want to talk about in this video as well, is kind of what Hecate showed me of how the ancestors kind of perceive things, okay? Just like how the living mourn the dead, the ancestors are living in a realm where we are absent, okay? Or the living is absent. So they mourn the living, okay? They are separated from us, from the same veil that separates us from them. So just understand that too. Now, when you work with the ancestors and stuff like that, you're obviously building that relationship and that connection back. Not back, but, well, it could be back if you're talking about ancestors that died in your lifetime that you knew. But you are establishing a connection through the veil, okay? And this is very important to know. What was I going to say with this? So if you're not honoring your personal ancestors and stuff like that, and you're not establishing that connection through the veil, then those ancestors are not able to perceive of the living realm, I should say, okay? And so they're very much in a state like how you are when you're not doing ancestor work or whatever, and you just feel this divide, completely separate from your dead, okay? That's how they feel about the living, all right? But when you're doing ancestor work, when you are making that connection, that communication, and all of that, that's what gives them access to the realm of the living, okay? So understand that. They don't just have free access to the realm of the living all the time. It's through means of magic and stuff like that that they get it, okay? And like I said, I will go into more detail when I talk about magic with the ancestors and all of that, setting up an ancestor altar and things like that. I'll get into that in the next video, but I don't know if it's going to be the immediately next one or just soon, but I will do that coming soon, okay? Let me see if there's anything else I need to add for it. But yeah, just be mindful of the ancestors, okay? Don't treat them like they're mindless slaves, like my kind of ex-friend, who is like coming back into my life right now, which I don't know if it's just for a season or for good, because I don't really fully trust her again yet. But don't talk about the ancestors or think about them like they're just mindless slaves to you, okay? That is not the right way of doing it. I hope that you take this lesson to heart and meditate on it, think about it deeply and see what other insights come to you and stuff like that. And just be aware that during this time of the year, the ancestors really come forward more because the veil is thinning, and this is the time when, that is what I was going to say, this is the time of year when they get to come through the veil regardless if you're doing magic or not, okay? So they can do that during this time of year and stuff like that, or on certain Sabbaths when the veil thins, like on the Beltane Sabbath, May 1st, the veil thins, and they're able to come through during that time and experience the realm of the living and stuff like that. So even if you're not doing magic with the ancestors, they are still able to perceive at certain times the realm of the living. It's just not as strong as when you do magic with them, okay? So like I said, they're always going to be more wiser than anyone that's living, okay? Because they have these different abilities free of the body that allow them to gain more wisdom and experience and knowledge and stuff like that, okay? So just be aware that during this time of the year, when the veil thins for a more prolonged period rather than just like one day of a Sabbath, like May 1st Beltane, the veil is thinned for a prolonged period of time, and so they're going to be coming forward to us during this time, especially to witches and stuff, and trying to give messages and get communication established, okay? So just be aware of that. If they are coming to you, try your best to understand what they're communicating to you, and if they're asking for offerings and stuff like that, you need to do it. If they're asking you to do certain things in your life or make changes and stuff like that, please listen to them if it feels right to you. And another thing I should say in this video, the veil itself, if you remember what I posted on YouTube, the videos of Hecate's descent, I was talking about how there's gateways to the underworld realm, okay? There's 7 gateways there, and they are not physical gateways like a doorway threshold, okay? They're vibrational frequencies, veils, okay? So you have to understand it like that. So when we talk about the veil thinning, it's actually not just one veil. There is 7. I don't know why I'm showing 5 fingers. There is 7 vibrational veils, okay? And those are what thin, okay? So my point is that during this period, or this thing that we call Hecate's descent or whatever, when she returns, or actually what allows her to return, is that those veils have to come down completely, okay? In the natural order, no spirit returns from death, okay? There's certain gods and goddesses, but as far as human spirits and stuff like that, they are not given free reign to return from the realm of the dead, okay? But like I said, certain gods and goddesses, like what we call psychopomps, like Hermes, Mercury, he is able to go to the realm of the dead and then come back out of it or whatever through the veils. And usually that just requires a thinning of the veil. Like when Hecate went into the underworld, she had to cross those veils and it had to thin the veils out, okay, for her to do that, thin enough to be pierced. But when she returns, it's different from normal circumstances, because of the reason why she went down there this time was to reabsorb a bunch of souls. So if you want to understand what that really means, go and go and read the story of the descent of the goddess Ishtar. or actually I did post a video about that you can watch, where I just read the story. And basically that is the story of the last time that Hecate descended, okay? And when she comes back, she brings many, many souls of the dead with her out from Hades, okay? So I don't know if I should have done this as a separate video or not, but I'm just going to keep talking about it because it's just relevant right now. Basically, yeah, when she returns, a whole bunch of souls of the dead are coming with her from that realm. So that's just something to be aware of as well. And I said all that in this video because what my whole point is that in order for her to return, the entire veils have to come down, like completely, not just thinned, but just come down, okay? And that's just how it works when she returns from this specific type of journey where she's gathering souls with her. And that takes 2 years for the veils to be brought down, okay? So leading up to her descent, we had the veils thinning more than ever usual in the last 2,500 years that any human has experienced that's living. It had to be thin enough for her to go through, okay? But now, since then, we have had the veils thinning more and more and more and more, okay? So when it gets to this time of the year, during this time of her descent, the veils will be getting thinner and thinner. So just be aware of that as well. It takes 2 years, or I should say really from the time that she went down there to now, it's still been thinning or whatever. But for the next 2 years specifically, it's really going to like break the veils down completely, okay? So be aware of that too. And when that is happening, the ancestors and the dead will have a more stronger influence in the physical realm, okay, during this whole thing, okay? So usually when the veil thins during the dark half of the year or whatever, or on certain Sabbaths, people notice that the dead and the ancestors and spirits in general are able to have more of an effect on the physical world. Well, just apply that understanding to the fact that the whole veils are coming down, especially for the next 2 years from now. So it's not just going to apply then to Sabbath days or the dark half of the year, but it will start to be for just the entire time period that the dead and ancestors and spirits will be able to have more of an effect on the physical world at all times, okay? So another reason why I wanted to do this lesson was because I know that this time is coming, and I wanted you all to be able to really communicate at the conscious level with the spirits, with your ancestors, because there's no time like the present to be working with them, okay? Because like I said, I always want to teach you guys practical magic that you can use, okay? But I have to give you the foundation first so that you can understand it properly and use it properly when it comes to the practical use, okay? So if you don't work with your ancestors already, if you don't honor them already, there's no time like the present to start doing it, and you might want to consider that you kind of have to during this time, because they will be more present around us and able to do more effects on the physical. So if you are not respecting and honoring your ancestors, appeasing them, there are some that will do negative things to you in your life, okay? That's just how it is, because they have free will and they have personalities, they have feelings and emotions, and they react like how living humans do, okay? So I just wanted to point that out. Oh, there's a spider in here. But I just wanted to point that out for you guys and do this lesson. And the next lesson will be about, doing magic with the ancestors. I'm sorry, I keep burping, but okay. Let me know if you have any questions about this before we proceed. And hail Hecate, hail to the holy dead, and blessed be witches.